Thank you, sir. I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. We actually have a nice crowd in here. We're going to start with the invocation, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will, please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. I'll call the meeting to order and ask our city clerk to please take roll.
Councilor Bross-Figueroa.
Here.
Councilor Carroll.
Here.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Here.
Councilor Hinchman.
Here.
Councilor Kearns.
Here.
Councilor Lowther.
Here.
Councilor Parker.
Here.
Councilor Pliszka.
Here.
Councilor Severino.
Here.
And Councilor Thompson.
Here.
10 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anyone here tonight for public comment? If not, we'll move down to the minutes portion, and I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes presented from the January 30th, 2024 meeting. We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will also entertain a motion to accept the minutes from the February 1st, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, under your correspondence, you have your building permits that have been issued from February 6th to the 19th of 2024. We have two presentations tonight, and we're going to start with the Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area. So welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Ben Duval Irwin. I'm Communications Manager with Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area, or AFNHA for short. We submitted a funding request for the coming fiscal year, and as requested, I'm here to give an informational presentation about some of our benefits that we provide to the city and our community. I'd also like to welcome Logan Smith, our new Executive Director, and Larry Gent, our Fiscal Sustainability Director. We operate in 18 counties, 16 in West Virginia plus 2 in Western Maryland, but I'll focus on what we do here in Elkins and Randolph County for tonight. In previous years that we've been awarded funding by the City of Elkins, we've prioritized that to host an AmeriCorps member supervised by the city on projects relevant to the city. In the past, we've hosted members with Elkins Tree Board and the Historic Landmarks Commission. In this past fiscal year, we didn't see any such request, and we used our awarded funds for our general operating costs, which is very much appreciated because most of our other sources of funding require matching funds, most of which need to be non-federal, which is harder for us to come by. And so we really appreciate your previous support. And in the past year, we've directly benefited the city of Elkins through our AmeriCorps program. One of our AmeriCorps members, Danny Helmick, was very closely involved with the Elkins Tree Board. He attended their meetings regularly and assisted several events. And our AmeriCorps program as a whole supported several organizations based in Elkins directly. We've hosted several members at the Monongahela National Forest, at the Augusta Heritage Center, at the Elkins Depot Welcome Center, the Nature Conservancy, the West Virginia Railroad Museum, with our organization at our Appalachian Forest Discovery Center, and other organizations in Randolph County, including the Beverly Heritage Center, Randolph County Historical Society, and Camp Pioneer. And just those AmeriCorps members alone provided over 17,000 hours of service to those organizations. And that's just our AmeriCorps members here in Randolph County. And in addition to their regular service with their host organizations, our members supported some other Elkins organizations through some of their service projects, with service projects at the Kump Education Center, Elkins Make It Shine, the Elkins Randolph County Library, and the Allegheny Highlands Trail. And one of the new programs that we started last year that we're really proud of was our grant program, which we started as a pilot program in 2022, where we awarded $60,000 in mini grants for tourism projects across our 18 counties. We funded several Elkins organizations in that year, and then last year we started a larger grants program with a broader focus, where we distributed $200,000 throughout our 18 counties, and we funded several projects here in Elkins, which totaled over $50,000 to the Kump Education Center. Their monthly lecture series is going on now. It's funded by our grant program. Woodlands Development Group was working on the new artwork that's in the Taggart Hotel. The Old Brick Playhouse is going to be doing some productions based on local history, as well as some other projects by the Randolph County Historical Society, Parks and Recreation, and Helvetia Restoration and Development Organization. And this is a matching grant, so out of just these projects, that's over $100,000 worth of projects in our community. And out of our total $200,000 that we've awarded throughout our 18 county area, that's over $400,000 that these grantees are expecting to leverage for their projects. And outside of our AmeriCorps program, our organization was involved in many community events here in Elkins over the past year. We had informational tables at several events by organizations like Our Town, Elkins Farmers Market, Randolph County Outdoors, Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs, the Mountain State Forest Festival, Kump Education Center, and others. We've hosted a few workshops here in Elkins. We hosted a interpretation training last fall at the Wood Tech Center, which was attended, well, with that event plus a volunteer management training that we hosted earlier. We saw over 50 individuals from over 20 different organizations, not just from Elkins, but from across West Virginia and Maryland. And our Appalachian Forest Discovery Center Museum in downtown in the past year, our exhibit saw over 2,000 people come to visit. And in the years since we opened in 2014, that brings us to over 14,000 visitors who have come to our museum. And so those are some of the ways that I've hoped to quantify the benefits that we've provided in the past year. I believe you've got our handouts with more information on some of our other programs. Information about all of those are on our website. I'm happy to take any questions.
I don't really have a question, but I would just like to echo some of the things that Ben said, that there's so many organizations that are really getting not only funding support, but hands-on support. I can't tell you how many times AFNHA members have reached out to both the Tree Board and the Kump Education Center saying, we'd love to volunteer and help you out with projects. We have really benefited from having an AmeriCorps member affiliated with the Tree Board. You heard us talk about the urban tree management plan that was started by one of our members. And like Ben alluded to, Danny was a super help. That position that AFNHA, or formerly without the N, they have often sponsored, help us fund and sponsor an AmeriCorps member that would work with some city-affiliated organization, whether the tree board, I think we've been the fortunate one, but also the old hands-on, all the hands-on projects that have happened in the past. I think that the grant program that they are currently having really targets the things that Elkins is focused on right now. It's heritage tourism. And that's what a lot of these grants are all about. So for organizations that both I'm affiliated and other groups in town, it's a perfect match, everything that they do here. And they are always open to assist with helping with marketing, feasibility ideas, and grant writing. So I'm totally grateful that they're here and have assisted the city in so many ways.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to our second presentation, we have the Randolph County Community Arts Center.
I brought some artwork. Can I display it?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I also made copies of my presentation. Do you want me to pass those to you guys, or? Okay. I'm Danielle Cade. I'm the Executive Director at the Randolph County Community Arts Council. We go by the Art Center. Art connects us. Art heals, provides purpose, benefits students and individuals, builds connections and community. Art contributes to a community's identity, fosters community pride and a sense of belonging, and enhances the quality of life for its residents and visitors. We offer programs for community members to create artwork through collaboration and interaction with others. Art programs increases awareness, provide value, and develops creativity. Art heals us mentally, provides a creative outlet to express ourselves, provides confidence in young children, and develops self-esteem. Art education is crucial to the total education curricula and aids in sensory development in children. The Art Center is nestled in the front of the historic Weiss District on Randolph Avenue. As a nonprofit 501c3, we are serving our community with arts programming such as art classes, exhibitions, performances, fundraisers, and events. Currently, we have a third grade public school student participating in our after-school art program. She attends weekly classes. She started in September and she'll go through May. Her single-parent home would not have been able to afford the tuition, and we believe that everyone should have access to the arts. This child is a joy in her classroom, and we have watched her blossom with creativity. Our after-school art program is a multidisciplinary approach and is part of the creative arts education, supplements the school experience, as Randolph County elementary schools lack art as part of their curriculum. This program aids children in building confidence, providing an outlet for healthy expression while being educated in a small classroom. This is just one example of what we do at the Art Center. Next month in March, Art Shapes Randolph County. We are celebrating Youth Art Month with Randolph County art students. The Art Center provides all of the materials for 300 plus art students in public school, private school, and homeschoolers, grades pre-K through 12. This exhibition gives students the chance to shine in our community. The reception is Friday, March 8th from 4 to 6. I hope you guys can be there. I brought a few examples of artwork from previous Randolph County Student Art Show. That's what I have brought for you today. These are things that we do in our after-school art program. The purpose of Youth Art Month has many purposes, actually. I've listed those out here for you. Besides the direct attention that it provides for values of art education, I think it's important to realize that our community does need to be aware of how important art is for the community, for businesses, governmental support, art education. It increases community understanding, interest in the art and art education through involvement in art exhibits, workshops, and other creative ventures. I've listed out a few of those examples on here, and those were provided from the Council for Art Education. The Art Center also hosts 12-plus gallery exhibitions annually, 2 of which are juried art exhibitions opening a doorway to obtaining artists throughout the state of West Virginia, and the other exhibit throughout the United States. We've had artists as far as New Jersey, Maryland, Florida, and professional jurors from Maine, New Hampshire, and Colorado, as well as all of our local artists in Elkins and throughout West Virginia. These exhibitions provide the community with visual art through private, public, and homeschool field trips. Our receptions bring our community together and artists together to engage all in favor of art. We also host monthly brown bag concerts, ticketed concerts, theatrical performances, dances. We work with theatrical organizations like Vintage Theater. Most recently, Rue 151 Productions reached out to us for a possible performance in the fall. Our organization is artist-friendly. We hosted the Elkins Barn Dance Collective Square Dances, an effort to support this emerging group with an engaging art form. By doing something like this, they are in our gallery, they're experiencing visual art, music, and engaging in dance and movement. Many of our traveling musicians perform at the Art Center, and we also work with U.S. Tours to provide an evening of art and music in our gallery. We also hold 6+ fundraisers a year. Community art projects and collaborative initiatives create spaces where individuals can connect, they share their experiences, and they build relationships. We collaborate and build connections with artists, art organizations, and our community. This fosters the connection that we are striving for in our mission, and it allows our fundraisers to go beyond simply raising funds just to exist. For example, last summer, we had 2 art instructors offering free wheel glaze throwing days for the community. This allowed visitors from all ages with no experience to enjoy the art of throwing pottery bowls and learning how to glaze them. We collaborated with Augusta's Art in the Park, and we provided those free pottery bowls with the purchase of Asian-style noodles. We pulled the community together, and then we turned it into a fundraiser. That money goes back into our studio so that we can provide more experiences to the community. After college, I went and I worked for a summer camp in Bartow, West Virginia, Camp Hidden Meadows. It was in that summer that I realized I had an interest in educating students on how to create art. When I located to Elkins, I started with Arts Bank, and then I later became an instructor with the Randolph County Art Center. Valley Head Elementary holds a special place in my heart, providing arts education through Arts Bank. I felt that again as an art instructor for the Art Center. It was in those moments I realized how important serving our community with art education was. My current role allows me to continue to spread that awareness. We have a unique opportunity to serve this city with a variety of art, and we are the centralized arts hub for the community. We have something for everyone in all mediums and all ages and all abilities. Art encourages community connections, and I'm honored to instruct for the Arts Center in Elkins and do my job. Some of the challenges that the Art Center faces are things like our 95-year-old building. We are doing things like repairs, upgrades, and enhancements. Some of those might be smaller, some of them might be on the larger scale. We have an immediate need to hire qualified staff to assist in our mission. Currently, I am the only employee at the Art Center. All of our art instructors and musicians are contracted professionals. We are working through these challenges, but it does come at a price. We do everything in our power to keep the tuition, tickets low and affordable, and sometimes free. Our organization writes numerous grants per year, raise money with the community in mind. We report on grants what we receive from the city and council, from the city and the county commission for our grant purposes as a matching donation, our matching support. We have almost 40 volunteers. In the support of the volunteers, they are assisting in the mission of the Art Center. We plan to hire a staff soon to help assist and so that we can grow and aid in the art programming growth, because we want to be able to offer more to the arts community as well as to all of the citizens in Elkins. The Art Center is truly appreciative of the support that the City of Elkins has provided us in the past, and we look forward to your support again. We have plans to provide arts to the community for years to come. Thank you.
Sorry, are there any questions or comments?
Well, not so much of a question, but a comment. I just want to say, working with you previously with, my former role with all that you do for the community, I was just seeing the needs of that building. And it's such a historic building that we definitely need to, preserve and keep. But also just the work you guys do. We're truly blessed in this area with, a wealth of, talent from a multi, perspective with art. But it's also very important that we are fostering that in younger people, our young folks, that, to give them, to pass that on down the line. I think it's very important. And also just all the culture that you also bring here. We have our amazing culture, but, the just experiences of art that we wouldn't even see and, from outside of places. I'm just really appreciative. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sure.
I looked your way.
One thing I was thinking when you were talking, and a bunch of us were fortunate to go see the Tiger Hotel, that perhaps there's ways to engage visitors in one-day-long art workshops or a plein air workshop. Come to Elkins, take the class at the Art Center and stay at the Tiger Hotel. I think there's a lot of opportunities to package all the great things that y'all do with some of the visitors and some of the initiatives that are taking place.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, sir.
If I may, sir.
Absolutely.
As I read through this packet, Danny, and as I listened to you, I think you've done a really good job. You came into that position at a difficult time, to say the very least, and I think you've done a great job with it. You have been very welcoming. You've been willing to be engaged in and with the community. The exhibits, the student art show brings families to the Art Center who might otherwise have thought they had no reason to be there, but their kids have been involved and benefited. And they said, Mom and Dad, come on, we have to do this. There's so much good at so many levels that I think the Art Center delivers for this community. And I can't say enough good, honestly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for what you're doing, Danny.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move down to our counselor reports, and we will start with Counselor Parker.
Sir, I have no reports. I just sort of broad update on the task force work. The reports for public safety, the two chiefs will, I think, very ably cover. We're continuing to make progress on all fronts. And that is, in many respects, in every respect, it's due to the continued commitment of the members of the small group of the task force. are just doing a great job, and the mayor comes up with these little wonderful discoveries.
Crazy ideas, man, I understand.
And then every Tuesday morning, Chief Bennett has a golden thought, and all of this continues to move us along on our goals. And those goals are right now, number one, the sober living house for women for this immediate region. We're moving forward with that. Number two, I believe we are about at the point where we are going to initiate a study that will produce a document that the mayor refers to as a white paper. And that document ultimately will be the heart of a grant proposal that will go to the West Virginia First Foundation as soon as they are receiving those proposals for funding from the opioid settlement funds. And so we're getting there.
And to add, Dave, we are looking at a regional approach for that, not just Randolph County.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Brasfer-Ganera.
Not much to report. Tree Board is working diligently on this huge grant that we will be bringing forward to you all for a specific reason. There's no match, but we just want to keep you in the loop. Municipal properties met, and there's a few things on our agenda tonight that reflect that meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Pliszka.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Hinchman.
Yes, Finance met on Monday, and we went over some IT issues and discussions on that. And then we went over budget revisions, most of which we're going to report tonight.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Chenoweth.
Personnel Committee met on February 5th, and we discussed 3 different items, all of which are on the agenda tonight for discussion, and the Personnel Committee has recommended all those issues onto council. Was nomination of a municipal court judge, an HSA administrator, and revising the personnel manual with respect to the emergency government closures. So if you have any questions, we can talk about that when we get to them. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Carnes.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Savarino.
No report.
Thank you. Councilor Lowther.
Rules and Ordinances met on the 5th of February. There's 2 agenda items in tonight's long list of things to go over, D and E, and we'll discuss those when we get down to them. Parks and Recreation will meet next Wednesday at 5 p.m. at the Phil Gaynor Center. And that's all I have.
Thank you. And you're right, it's a very long agenda. I told Sutton he set a record. I've never had this many items before, so. Councilor Carroll.
The Planning Commission met last week. 2 items that are worth for all of us to know. So one of them's coming before you. It's a change to the sign ordinance, and I will say now the Planning Commission spent a lot of time thoughtfully considering that decision, and we can talk more about that later. Additionally, the surveys for the comprehensive plan are out, and so just encouraging folks that you interact with to fill out that survey so the city has information moving forward with that.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
No report.
Thank you. Okay, we have our staff now, so we're going to start with our Chief Wastewater Operator, Whitney Himes.
Well, Mike gave me a minute, so I'll hurry up, Mike. The first thing, on the 2nd of February, we got an emergency call located on South Randolph. It was an oil spill in the river coming from either the stormwater drain or the CSO discharge. So we were on site all last week doing remediation and site cleanup on that. I have been in contact with the communication specialist, Jeremy, and issued a public notice to the residents about the harm that this causes, dumping things down the drain, stormwater, sanitary drains, even your kitchen sinks. Fats, oils, and grease cause us issues too. So we do have a very vague pre-treatment ordinance. I'm looking into trying to develop that a little bit more that allows us to have some regulatory obligations to start pressing this dumping and illegal disposing of things that should not be down in your sewer system that go to the river. And with that, we have had a CSO inspector job open since October, so Melissa has helped us fill that. He begins his position on February 26th. So he will be taking over the role with the CSO inspector and the pre-treatment coordinator. So we're going to start looking at a lot of these industrial users and pre-treatment sections in town. We have some assets that we're selling on February 27th and 28th through J.J. Kane. I've worked with Jeremy on, when I get the website, to have him post that publicly in case anyone would like to bid on those items. We have, for the past 2 years, been working with WVU with a COVID study with our wastewater. And come to find out, they texted me last week and said that we're going to get a stipend for participating in that study. So we're going to receive a $500 stipend this year and a $500 stipend for next year, so a total of $1,000. They also publish their findings on the website. So they do this to kind of see where the outbreaks of COVID or flu or would be happening within the state and try to get a step on that. So we've been participating in that. We've also been working, again, with the consent decree and long-term control plan. It looks like we're going to have to halt the Phase 3 project right now until the EPA approves our long-term control plan. After that's approved, then we're going to be looking into the consent decree to see what we can do with that. Then we can proceed with our Phase 3. And I also got good news from Region 7 that we have a loan reserve from our Phase 1 project in a total of $123,928.04. So that is available funds for the sewer department to purchase, hopefully, a dump station and a couple standby generators for the lift stations. And we're living in the archaic age down there, but we finally got a new internet system. And you talk about speed, you know, it's great. And we're getting a new phone system, so we'll be connected to the city hall, so if there's any kind of messages or anything, we can receive them faster and transfer any calls when necessary. And the past 2 days, I've been working with the state on an inspection of our wastewater facility, our land application, CSOs, and our collection system. So it's been a pretty busy couple weeks for us. And lastly, you'll see, I believe it's under unfinished business I, is our wastewater collection building, second reading. So if there's any questions on that, I'll be here to answer those.
You have a new sign too, don't you?
I do have a new sign, 2 new signs actually. So,
looks
and
very
after
nice.
today's inspection, we're going to have to get a couple more. So,
Looks very nice.
thank you.
I saw it this morning taking my dog over to walk him, so.
Well, good. That's in case we forget where we're going. If we can't smell it, we'll see the sign. So,
Any questions for Whitney? Thank you very much. Chief Bennett.
Good evening, everybody. I know we have a long agenda tonight, so I'll try to keep my report to between 25 and 30 minutes. In January, Elkins PD responded to 355 total calls for service, generated 16 cases, and resulted in 10 arrests. Kind of a slow month for us, so typical for January. We also are doing specialized patrols for DUI, speed enforcement, and distracted driving. That started in January and will be continuing for the next several months. That's all on grant money. So guys are coming in working usually 4-hour shifts on overtime to do those different specialized patrols. Hired a new officer on February the 12th, this week, Caleb Elmore. He'll be attending the West Virginia State Police Academy beginning on February the 26th and hopefully graduate around June the 7th. Of course, once he graduates, he'll come back and have 3 months of field training with one of our field training officers, and then he'll be able to work as a solo officer after that. That hire completely ends our hiring list, so we will be testing again on March 30th to try to fill 2 more positions. We're expecting a new parking enforcement officer to start on March the 4th, so it'll be nice to get parking enforcement back in. We received our new radars that were on order for all police vehicles. We got them in this past week and are working on getting those installed. That'll help out tremendously. And I found out 2 days ago that our in-vehicle cameras are supposed to be arriving in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We spoke with the manufacturer on those, and we have a scheduled remote deployment for April the 2nd. So they'll be up and running then. I'm extremely excited to get those. The capabilities of those are unbelievable. Just one of the things that'll make us a lot better. The way things work now, if we have an officer get into a pursuit, he has to contact a supervisor and get permission, get the details of the pursuit, and that supervisor will either approve it or terminate it, depending on the circumstances. Usually this all goes through a dispatcher. So if I'm at home at 2 o'clock in the morning and I get a call, then I have to have a relay person there through a dispatcher telling me what's going on, asking questions of the officer, and then I'll make a determination whether I want that pursuit to continue or terminate. With this system, when I get that call, I can actually live stream that vehicle's camera. So I can sit at my house when that vehicle's in pursuit and pull it up and see the circumstances of that pursuit for myself when I make that determination whether I want the officer to continue or to terminate. So I think just things like that are going to be tremendous with this system. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Keziker.
I just got put on a time restraint, and I won't say by who, but I'll keep my report brief. I have a meeting tomorrow morning with a company that's coming in to talk about building security and the key fob issue that we've been having. We ran into some issues when we hired a new police officer that were kind of unsuspected. So we have a company coming in to give us a quote, and then I'll be providing that to the proper committees and trying to move forward on that. Thanks to the help of Melissa, we have hired a new driver for the sanitation department. Very qualified individual. I believe he starts March the 4th is the target date for his starting. So we're looking forward to that. We were put in a hard spot because we literally had to fill a position simply off of a text without a 2-week notice. Just, hey, I'm not coming to work tomorrow, I'm done. So with Melissa's hard work and teamwork, we were able to get through that without any downtime to amount to anything. Moving along well with the plans to start construction with the sanitation garage. You'll be seeing that come to light very soon. As Whitney touched base, we'll be doing a auction of vehicles 27th, 28th of February. We're putting the HVAC system out to bid on February 21st, and we will have a pre-bid meeting on February 28th. So there's some exciting news. And we have a tentative power outage scheduled for next Friday morning, the 23rd, for the generator to operate and to have a short training session. It is tentative right now. It can be changed. It was scheduled for today. It got pushed back to next week. So as we get closer to that date, if anything changes, I'll send a mass email out to let everybody know. Other than that, that's all I have to report this evening.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
I wasn't going to ask that part.
You still had 12 seconds, brother. Miss Judy.
All right, in your treasurer's report, you have the 3 normal things. I also included the ARPA balances that we have that total $723,000 that is left to be spent out of the $3,089,000 that we received for that. So everything, 99.92% has been allocated. What little bit hasn't has been interest off of that, but that will have to be allocated by the end of December of this year, and everything needs to be spent by 2026. And then finally, you'll have Resolution 1726. We'll have interdepartmental budget revisions for the fire department, the general fund. There's 7 departments in that, and the sanitation fund. And then Resolution 1727 is the state budget revision, and I'll be happy to explain what's in those as well if anybody has any questions. And that's all I have. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Chief Himes. Turn myself off.
Use your mic.
I know.
2024's started off pretty busy for us. As of this afternoon, we have run 117 calls since the first of the year. That's a pace, if it doesn't slow down, that's a pace of about 920 for the year. So I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. We have a final inspection date for the new fire engine, 40 days. We will go up for final inspection March 27th. I had 3 guys go up today just to look some things over. Looking sharp. I'm waiting on pictures to download, and I'll be shooting those out to you tomorrow. And working diligently with Tracy and Sutton to get the financing secured and on your agenda in the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, it doesn't leave the building till it's paid for, so. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Stokes.
Just a couple things to mention. One, some of you are already signing some letters that we put out. Obviously, it's optional, but this is a letter that would go to our state legislators asking that they not proceed with House Bill 4602, which is one of these periodic attempts to eliminate cities' ability to charge business taxes. So that would be something like 1/3 of our budget. So anyway, you can read the letter. If you don't want to send it, then don't sign it. If you'd like to send something different, obviously feel free. You can work something up. I can also email the text around. But if it meets with your approval, there's a copy to each of our legislators, and we thought we'd get you all while you're here tonight, those of you that are interested in doing that. And then as Councilor Carroll mentioned, there are 2 surveys right now for the comprehensive plan that the Planning Commission is updating. I actually just sent around, because I realized I'd sent it to the Planning Commission, but not Council, the link to the online survey. This is the public survey looking for input to the plan. And so I sent around Jeremy's press release to you, which explains it, has the link, and then of course it's on our Facebook page if you want to share that. And separately, there are going to be directed surveys, custom surveys sent directly to certain stakeholders in the community. So those will go out to various organizations. And so that's something we'll maybe looking for council to spread the word that those may be coming to all your usual sorts of nonprofits and government agencies and all those sorts of things, looking for their input as well. So that's all I have for now. Any questions?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything in particular. I'm certain when you get to the business part of the agenda, there'll be some questions, and I'll be happy to answer them as we go through those. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to the approval of the vendor invoice payments, and I'll entertain a motion to accept the invoices as submitted.
I move we pay the AP.
We have a motion. Any comments or questions? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now let's begin our marathon. Ordinance 320, consideration on second reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance by the City of Elkins of sewer revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $250,000 to finance the cost of design, acquisition, construction, and equipping additional betterments and extension to the city's sanitary sewer system. This is the second of 3 readings, and I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And I don't know who wrote this next one, but it's very lengthy, by the way. Was that you? Oh, absolutely. Ordinance 321, to consider for adoption on the first reading of an ordinance of the city which authorizes one the design, acquisition, construction, and equipping of a sanitation department garage, the project, to the leasing of certain real property situate in Elkins Corporation District, Randolph County, on the east side of Baxter Street between 11th Street and Chestnut Street in the city of Elkins, and all the project improvements and appurtenances thereto by the city from the Elkins Municipal Building Commission, and 3, the issuance by the Elkins Municipal Building Commission of its lease revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $2 million for the purpose of financing the project and matters relating thereto. This is the first of 2 readings. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
I'm just so glad I get to do this again. Are there any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 322, an ordinance of the Common Council of Elkins, West Virginia, amending section of City Code, Chapter 152, zoning regarding sign regulations. This is the first of 2 readings. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or questions?
Certainly. So as Councilor Carroll mentioned earlier, the Planning Commission has been looking at this issue about sign regulations very thoroughly with regard to a request from one of our business owners as to what they wanted to do. And as a result of the original request, it was not possible to issue a permit for that type of sign. So I believe that if you'll recall, this same sort of idea or issue came up with regard to a wall sign for the mural that ended up downtown. It is one thing to pass legislation, as you did with a zoning code that has a big section with regard to signs in it. However, in its application, sometimes it doesn't work as well. And I think if there's any part of your zoning ordinance that probably will get more questions than others, it's the sign part of it. So the Planning Commission has looked at this carefully, looked at the request of the business owner, and the ordinance that has been drafted. It is coming to this body as a recommendation from the Planning Commission. If you'll recall, as part of the zoning code, the only way zoning changes get made is it has to be by an ordinance of council upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission. So it's gone through all of those steps, what you have in front of you in Ordinance 322 is a change with regard to the sign ordinance the zoning ordinance sign portion of it that will allow the type of sign that has been requested. If you want to take a look, if there's anything in particular, we've added a couple definitions for multi-tenant sign, non-conforming sign, and then made a change in the general requirements under 152.224. Those are the only changes that are going to be made. And unfortunately, there's still a draft watermark on the ordinance. It is no longer a draft, just so you know. And if Mr. Carroll or Mr. Stokes have anything they want to add since they were at those meetings, certainly. But I think that pretty much covers it.
I think you covered it.
Yeah, I think in just some other background, I think we went back and forth on, not making a change that opened it up. So one alternative we explored was what would happen if we allowed freestanding electronic message display signs across all commercial zones. So we kind of went to being really, really broad about it to try to see if we could develop something that would be fairly applied. It made sense. And then what we settled on was this kind of more specific use case that seemed more tailored to a particular scenario that I think is both allows, I think, a particular use that seems very reasonable and very valid, but also prevents uses that potentially could create more friction. And so I think just like the real, just plain spoken explanation of it is I think in the past, the signs that have been problematic are these like animated signs, and so this is not what this is about. These are like simple electronic message display signs. Previously, they could only exist as a monument sign, so I want to say, like, I think the Baptist Church in Randolph has one. And so the folks who kind of made this request that brought this issue to us had wanted to have an electronic message display sign that's on a freestanding sign that kind of stands up in front of a larger shopping plaza. And so we tried to figure out if there was a particular use case that could be developed for that kind of particular development. And I think, admittedly, like in the Planning Commission meeting, I kind of voted against it because I was supporting something more broad. But I think in terms of an action that seems reasonable, this is a really reasonable proposal that I think respects like folks who don't want a sign that could be potentially a nuisance. And if you look at the way it's described in the ordinance, I think it's like very restrictive already, and I think it's a fairly reasonable decision.
Well, and one of the points for me from the Planning Commission perspective was when I spoke to Mr. Kostakis about it, if we have an emergency event, this sign would actually allow the city to put the message out to make people aware what the event is that they need, if in case there's a disaster or something, a national emergency, whatever. So we could use that to broadcast our message.
We could use what,
The
Mayor?
sign, we could actually put the message, our message on their sign. They will allow us to do that. Like
Okay.
if there's a message, like in case there's an event, an emergency or something that we have to push out, we could get that, use a sign for that.
So I have a little question about this. So is this, I understand, so like the flashing, changing, that's, the sign was grandfathered in, but no more will be allowed, correct?
Correct.
Anyone?
Yeah, that's an animated sign, and
Right.
those
Right.
those are still illegal.
That's not monument, so I'm learning
throughout.
these terms here. It's,
They're different.
okay. What about a sign that would flash like open, like at a business? If it was open, just a sign that would flash open, would that be considered like an electronic animated sign?
I'd have to look that up. Part of the definition depends on, in terms of what's allowed, depends on how long it spends between transition.
Because I've seen, signs just out, not even here, but just in general, just, flash open.
Do you mean like
I
a
could look that up
neon
for you.
sign that says open or neon that says closed? Because some
Or
businesses
one
have
that just
those.
kind
Yeah.
of scrolls.
Sort of that, but I've also seen just some just like smaller ones, in the fronts of business that would flash open, I mean, and I understand the idea of what we're trying to do. I just want to make sure it's clean and buttoned.
This concerns specifically a kind of sign that would just display static message that I believe has to be in place for 7 seconds at a time, so it's not flashing on and off. But I would have to look up, if you could send me the details of the one you're talking about, I could look up and see if there's any rules that would pertain to that.
So just a sort of a general principle, what the Planning Commission tried to do is tailor something that would be very specific, would still be keeping in with the concept of what you want in your sign, part of your zoning ordinance, but also accommodate a long-term business here in the city, because if you look at the whole situation, it is important to have land use and have laws about land use. But it's also important to look at the particular situation and support the community, whether it's your businesses, your residents, and you're always trying to strike a balance that will still keep with the idea of a concept of what you want the community to be like, what the sign should be or not be, and also trying to find a way, if at all possible, to continue supporting a business that is requesting an accommodation that would help them promote their business. Because as we all know, small businesses spend a lot of their time keeping themselves in business, and any way the city can help. So this seemed to me to be a solution that balanced that and met the balance of keeping the standards in place for the community, yet looking at a way to assist a business that has been in this community for many, many years. So, and we would, I think the Planning Commission would do that for a new business if there were a way to do it. But in this case, that business came to city, had a meeting, because they couldn't get a permit, and this is a solution, we believe, to that problem. If you decide to pass this tonight, and then on the second reading, it'll take care of, I believe, the situation that we have.
Thank you for that. I actually was just kind of curious about a little bit of the background, because, I was wondering where that,
Why do we even look at it?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, both of the times when you've looked at modifying your zoning ordinance with regard to signs is because of a specific request. And then looking at what the regulation was, and if there was a way to to change it, modify it, and still keep the idea of what you were trying to control as far as signs and land use, et cetera, but yet accommodate a request where it made sense for this recommendation to come forward. So again, you're always trying to strike a balance, and that is never easy, but I think the Planning Commission's done a great job in spending a considerable amount of time looking at it.
Thank you,
I
Jerry.
appreciate that.
Any other questions?
I'd like to commend them, because I know how hard the sign ordinance is and how difficult it was to put it together in the first place. And this seems like the perfect compromise of looking at particular situations and being aware of how this fits exactly what that need is. It isn't crazy broad and allows things all over the place. If anybody has any question as to how hard it is to put those together, it probably took us 5 months of meetings to put together that sign ordinance. And when we brought it forth to council, I remember saying This is a living, breathing document. This isn't everything set in stone. There's going to be issues coming up in the future that we can't even imagine. So thank you so much for your work, everybody, on putting that together.
Well, Nancy, we had a couple meetings that felt like 5 months, so, yeah. Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Ordinance 323, an ordinance of the Common Council of Elkins, West Virginia, eliminating sections of the City Code, Chapter 112, solicitors and canvassers. This is the first of 2 readings. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
This essentially deletes a kind of archaic section of code that required that before anyone could do door-to-door sales in the city, they needed to come and register with the clerk's office. The reason that I proposed deleting it is that it really doesn't seem to serve a purpose. It's sort of a waste of staff time, and I think the tipping point for me is that I think the document that ends up getting produced simply showing that they've presented and registered, I've always had the concern, and I did hear back recently with a solicitor, that this document is shown to people as proof that they're a legitimate business or that the city has in some way vetted them, and we're in no position to do that. I think that for all those reasons, I'd recommended that it be struck from city code.
Yes.
Yeah. There would no longer be a registration requirement for solicitors and canvassers. People would always have the right to put up a sign that doesn't allow them to come to their door, and I would recommend that anyone exercise a lot of caution interacting with someone who's showed up to try to sell you something. But
And the rest of the chapter will stay in place. It's just these sections.
Essentially sort of to eliminate the appearance of a stamp of approval.
Correct.
Essentially.
that was kind of the main reason.
And I think most residents, if they had a concern of a door-to-door solicitor or canvasser, if they have a concern, they'll probably call 911 or call City Hall or whatever. I think most people are savvy enough to be able to do that, and of course, the police department, if need be, can respond.
Any other questions or comments?
Is the word like canvassers automatically defined as people who are selling something rather than people who go out? I mean,
It's just the word in the
canvassing.
code. There is not a definition for it. It's just the name of that chapter, solicitors and canvassers.
Huh, okay.
And so
Just
attached to it is, you'll see the only part that's going away. I'm not sure why they titled that chapter. This is long before my time, but that's the chapter's name.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1716, delegation of ABCA endorsement authority from council to mayor. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
So in what we're approving, does this still leave room? So like the one question in the memo there about if the mayor or the mayor's designee doesn't approve an event, is that event then coming for us to thumbs up or thumbs down, or how is that written in terms of what we're approving now?
I think that the mayor or the designee would be well advised if there was something that seemed controversial or some reason to give it extra consideration. I think they would always have the ability to just refer it to council.
If I may, sir.
Yes.
In keeping with some of the questions to be explored that were offered in the accompanying notes, what about if the mayor, if there's any question at all, speaks with the chief of police? Because we all know that there are certain places that are rather chronically challenging for EPD.
Well, to be
Would that
honest
be
with you,
reasonable, or is that?
I would
That's
probably.
not what this is about, though,
No.
at all.
No.
This is about floor plans for fairs and festivals. This is not for someone that if you're referring to a business that's a chronic abuser, that they shouldn't have their license, that sort of thing. That's not what this is about at all. Good example is when Beander's extends their business area during the Forest Festival into the alleyway. You remember they come every year with a plan, because that license they have is just between the walls of their
Yeah,
building.
so this is only about
nothing.
about square footage things,
Temporary.
and not about whether or not they will be permitted to sell beer or whatever on the sidewalk.
Well, that's what this allows. That allows them to sell it beyond the building itself. You've had these before, but they have certain things they have to have before they can get that license extension from the ABC folks. And this is the letter they need from the city that says it's okay with the city.
What are we saying is okay? The floor, the extension
when
of the
one-
space, or
When one of
this
these,
particular establishment selling liquor?
when
No.
when one of these businesses wants to sell in a tent in their parking lot, like Smoker Friendly or Beander's, they have to apply for a special license to the ABCA. That's
Right.
ultimately who's in charge. The ABCA has a bunch of conditions they have to meet, one of which is that they have to be in good standing, however the ABCA looks at that. And one of the things they need is a letter from the jurisdiction where this is to take place that says the governing body, or in this case the designee, endorses the event. So it's basically the example given, Beander's, or again Smoker Friendly's with its tent in its parking lot during Forest Festival. It's basically the city saying they have no objection to that proposed event. And I think, as mentioned, there are things that we're very used to seeing with businesses that are very practiced and always do a good professional job of this. There are rules they have to follow about limited access and security, checking IDs and things like that. So I think there are some that it's very much an established pattern that they do a good job, and I think there would always be the opportunity if it was an unusual request or there were any questions. I have no doubt that it would be a good idea to refer to council if there was some kind of broader concern.
And ultimately, the commission who makes the decision as to whether they get this extension of the license. All this is a letter that says, as Sutton pointed out, from a governing body where this business is located. The city's not making that final determination. This is just one thing they need in order to do this.
Okay,
So
thank you.
basically, this is switching the council from being that authority to the mayor. Or
Yeah.
mayor's
That,
designee.
this is something you've been doing.
Right.
Yeah, you did it at your last meeting, I think, for Davis and Elkins College, where they were going to serve on campus. But instead of having, the main issue is just that these things
Time.
crop up, and there's not a great reason for it not to happen, but sometimes they're a little delayed, and council isn't meeting for another 2.5 weeks or something. And so it's really just in the interest of when it's not going to get turned down anyway, of just expediting that approval for them.
But I can assure you, council will always be made aware of these applications. Whenever we're signing off on them, they will be part of your packet, so you'll be aware of the event coming up.
Does this include non-intoxicating beer and like hard liquor?
The two different floor plan extensions and the fair and festival permits have slightly different things that they allow, but I'd have to look up.
So would this just be encompassing of any request that goes to the ABC?
Yes.
It would be in keeping with what they applied for, what license they already have, or if it's a fair festival, what they can't have one for.
So would there be, and I don't think there would be, I'm not saying our mayor would, do this necessarily, but would there be an avenue for an appeal? Like if hypothetically, say the mayor said no, I know in council, that would be our job. We would, deliberate and be a vote, and we'd say yes or no, but would there be an avenue for an appeal, or is it, I'm not saying you would just be like, no, but
No, I think, as Sutton mentioned earlier, I think if it's something controversial, I would probably say, let's push it to council for a vote at that point in time, if time permits. So, you're right, I don't
So
think
it could then
Yes.
possibly come
There may
to,
be
okay.
instances where you do see these in the future. Like I said, right now, we're just trying to expedite the process slightly.
And I think that's the important thing, because you're here a lot, we're busy,
Right. Absolutely, so, yes.
And sometimes you get the request not in time for a meeting, And then you gotta wait another 2 weeks, and that may be a time concern depending on, what their situation is.
Chris, historically, when these have come up before council to approve, do we consider all of them or some of them vetted? Like, these are just not gonna happen, like, you haven't went through the proper steps, it's not a good idea, council's not even gonna consider that one, or are they all considered?
They've always been brought to council as far as I know.
Okay.
Everyone I've ever seen, they've had all of the paperwork they need, short of the letter from the governing body that says it's okay for, we accept that you're gonna do this. And then they send all that paperwork to the commission for them to make the final decision.
Denied in my time on council.
No, not since I've been here. Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1717, reappointing S. Bennett to the Water Board.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1718, revision of the policy for government closure during weather and similar emergencies. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1719, selecting Aflac Health Equity as the administrator for the PEIA Plan C Health Savings Accounts. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Well, I've got three of them that time. We have a motion. Actually, I have several motions on one. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1720, corrective resolution clarifying termination of stipend for declining health insurance coverage. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1721, appointment of R. Day as judge of the Elkins Municipal Court. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
Ms. Day, she was recommended by the Personnel Committee at our last meeting. She currently serves as the municipal clerk, has been doing the job, has the training, which is obviously a qualification to hit the ground running as the municipal judge, so that's why she was recommended.
She is currently serving in the interim position, so any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And congratulations.
Congratulations.
And in case you don't know who our judge is now, she can stand up and wave. That is Becky Day. Thank you so much. Resolution 1722, Rosie the Riveter Memorial, permission to apply for the Department of Highways for right-of-way access. I will entertain a motion to accept, please. We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1723, appointing C. Talbot to the Elkins Tree Board. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1724, request from the Taggart Hotel for reserved loading and unloading in front of the building. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So move.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
Is that specific for loading like cargo, or is that also like loading, unloading?
Yes.
People going into the building?
Guest.
Everything. Okay.
Are they leased?
It's primary for the guest, I think. Okay, Cody.
Are they leased parking spots?
This is street parking.
It's directly in front of the steps.
But they're reserved for,
They're gonna have signs for loading, unloading that they're gonna put up, that they're paying for.
Yes.
I guess, are those, I know at our office, we lease the spots in front of our office. I was just curious if they're leasing those or they're just being reserved without a lease, or do we know?
That is what council will decide tonight.
I just had a question in light of the public comment the other day. I was just curious, like what has been the traditional practice? Like, so, like the the bank, for example, has those spots reserved with their own signage. You mentioned your example too, Rob, and so I just didn't know if there was some past examples for us to look to, because like at one level this seems like very reasonable and makes total sense, and it's probably like the best use of those parking spaces no matter how you look at it. But I just wanted to make sure there was a decision that was consistent, and if there were, or like what the process was. So it seemed like in the public comment we got the other week was that, you know, somebody had like tried to get a spot and couldn't, and so I just didn't know what those processes were like or how those were built out.
I think in general terms, the city used to be quite open to entertaining a request for these sorts of leases around the city. And then at a certain point, I can't quote when, I think it was essentially discontinued and they weren't going to entertain those requests. As far as what the terms are, Councilor Chenoweth may be able to say what his firm pays, or I might have to ask Tracy to weigh in if you know anything about those leases. And I'll just say, if the conversation comes around to it being council's pleasure to require some sort of lease payment, one option would be to make a motion approving it with a directive, like, you know, applying similar terms to the other leases that are in existence or something like that. But then I don't know if you would know anything about that.
I don't know the amount right off the top of my head, but I do believe there's 2 or 3 businesses right now that do pay. The Councilor Chenoweth's place of business is further, it's not in the downtown area, but I believe there is one in the immediate downtown area and one just barely outside of the downtown area that pay. But other than that, no.
Is there a rationale, I guess, behind that, or is it just sort of what happened over the years?
Once again, that has been a few years back. I probably have to take a look at the resolution with that. I believe the one reason for it, at least, was removing signs for, I'll use Davis Trust Bank as an example. They have off-street parking, like Mountain Valley Bank does not. So we allow Mountain Valley Bank to have, I think it's 2 or 3 spots in front of the bank because they don't have off-site parking for their customers.
And those are leased? Those are paid for? They pay for those spots?
I'd have to look once again.
I
don't
think-
believe they do, but I don't hold me to it. It's a guess right now.
I think what you have when you look around at these spots is a kind of patchwork that developed over a much more casual period of time. So I don't think that, I'd be surprised if we went back and found that there was ever some overarching policy that was created that affected that. I think it was sort of ad hoc decisions from time to time over the years. I do recall something about either seeing this in records or being around quite a while ago when it was decided not in general to entertain those sorts of applications, and it was because obviously of the desire to have open, flexible parking for just anyone. I think in this case, obviously, when you're talking about people arriving with luggage and having to get in the front door of the hotel, it's a little bit different circumstance related to how crucial it is to the operation of the business, but that's the request.
So Sutton, you were suggesting that we could potentially approve this with a directive to look at those 2 or 3 other like leases to kind of make a consistent decision.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Tiger wouldn't mind leasing the spots. I mean, I can't speak for
Or I was
them,
like kind of
but-
flipping back around. So like, I in my head, it seems logical that certain businesses, like perhaps the bank that have people in and out, or a hotel, that if they wanted to, you know, not like get whatever approval given, maybe sort of not charge because they're generating a lot of revenue anyways, all those businesses. So it seems like that's like kind of a benefit if they're, especially if it's only, you know, at the end of the day, like I imagine that the revenue generated is probably not a lot, or.
No.
How is this gonna be marked to keep people from parking in the spots?
I think they're putting up their own
indicated.
signs.
Well, you can put up all the
Right.
signs you want. It doesn't
Sure.
stop me from parking there. It's always been open parking. It's always been, the whole street's been public parking. Now you're gonna take 2 spots, and you've already given them, what, 40 out back? I understand you need a place to unload and load, but you're taking more street parking away from the general public. So how are they gonna market and keep vehicles out of it for their loading and unloading? Because when I pull up in front of a hotel, when I travel, I have usually a canopy you pull up, there's off-street, there's really no off-street.
Right.
Or way to get off the street other than those 2 parking places. So that's my question, how are they going to have somebody stand at the door and go, you can't park there?
That would be their responsibility to enforce it, to be honest, Chris.
I mean, there's in that same block, Councilor Lowther, down towards the
There
end,
is.
right by Birds, there's a unloading and
There's an
unloading.
unloading and a loading.
And down by Joey's Bike Shop, there's another sign that,
Typically for deliveries, you get like 2 hours. or you
right,
can-
there's,
you can block
I don't know
2.
how those are enforced, but I can
Yeah.
think of those 2 places where it's loading and unloading during a certain
No,
time
no
period.
parking from, and
Right.
yet you see vehicles parked there in that time frame. That's what I'm.
Well, it looks like in
asking.
the request that they gave us, that they kind of said they're gonna have some sort of sign and maybe some sort of other marking that seem fairly reasonable, that they're willing to, bring to us too.
I mean, it's pretty typical if you have a older hotel that's in a city. I can think of a particular place I was a couple months ago in Pittsburgh. There's an unloading and loading sign. So, you're on the street and there's a space that maybe 2 or 3 cars, and they have someone help you, or you help yourself with your bags and for a few minutes, and then you got to go park your car somewhere. Now, I don't remember anyone really policing it, but people seem to pay attention to it and just get their things in or out of the car and move on. But I don't know if anyone's really particularly looked at this as to how they would intend to enforce it, other than have signs that said loading and unloading 15 minutes or whatever they intend to put up.
Any other questions or comments? We do have a motion from Councilor Parker, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Motion, I guess, to approve it, I guess we already have that motion, but a motion to amend it, that's consistent with determining whether or not, I guess it would be, doing a study and see if it would be a good idea to lease that spot to them, since these are sort of premium spots in a sought-after part of town for parking.
Okay, so we'll address the amendment first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And now back to the original motion. All those in favor say aye.
I'm sorry, and I have to nail down what that motion, that amendment is directing. You want to impose a lease requirement similar to the one already imposed on other paying businesses, or?
I think it was more so, research it and see if there's, and then bring that back to council to see if there's a rationale for leasing those spots to them, so we can consider that.
Okay, so not giving them the spots yet, but,
I think there's a motion to approve their request with this amendment.
okay, well, in other words, it would approve the request, but we'd come back to council to take additional action on the request, or?
I think as I understand it, there's a motion to, I guess, approve the request, so we're okay with reserving the spots. It's a question of whether or not they're going to be leased or not leased, and we'll consider that in the future.
Okay.
Because they probably need approval on these sites because they're hoping to open really quickly. But then I think, we're going to be looking at the whole parking situation as well. So this can definitely be a piece of it, is how do we apply these special conditions or allow these special conditions overall in the big picture. If it comes out that, maybe we should start charging everybody, then we'll think about that and go back to them. But I think approving their request to allow those parking spaces is
So then
So
I
I'll
think
ca-
we need to go back to the amendment, in my opinion, because I don't think the amendment was.
Let me
quite
read
clear.
it. How about if I capture it like this? Chenoweth moved to amend that council grant use of the spots now with the stipulation that council reserves the right to impose a lease or other requirement in the future.
Sounds accurate.
That's the amendment, correct?
That's the motion to amend.
Okay, so we'll vote on the amendment again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now back to Dave Parker's original motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution 1725, establishing compensation for members, treasurer, and secretaries of the Elkins Water and Sanitary Board. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1726, fiscal year '24, interdepartmental budget revisions. The Fire Department, Fund 2, General Fund number 1 through 7, and Sanitation number 2. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Resolution 1727, fiscal year state budget revision number 4. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion, and this will be a roll call vote, please, if you would, sir.
On Resolution 1727, State Auditor FY24 Budget Revision, General Fund 04, Councilor Bras Friganera.
Yeah.
What is your vote? Councilor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth.
Yes.
Councilor Hinchman.
Yes.
Councilor Kearns.
Yes.
Councilor Lowther.
Yes.
Councilor Parker.
Yes.
Councilor Pliszka.
Yes.
Councilor Severino.
Yes.
Councilor Thompson.
Yes.
10 yeses, the motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution 1728, approving the transfer by deed from the city of an abandoned and vacated portion of Tannery Drive to the Randolph County Development Authority. I will entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any questions or comments?
We'll get an explanation as to why this deed's being conveyed.
So back in 1991, the council at that time passed an ordinance vacating Tannery Drive. And the reason was the Wood Technology Center was about to be built on the property owned by the RCDA. For whatever reason, there was never a deed, like the process that's now being done. So it has come to their attention, and Mr. Morris had a deed prepared based on the new survey with regard to the part of Tannery Drive, which their building sits on, along with the parking lot. So this will take care of the fact that, I believe the intent was in 1991 to allow them to have access and have that as part of their property where they built the building, and this kind of clarifies and clears that up.
Any other questions or comments? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, R, emergency agenda item, execution of agreement with Tyler Technologies.
And I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss this agenda item under the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, we have a motion for executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. So it is 8:24. We are now entering executive session. And sir, who all do you need there?
I think everyone, council, mayor, administrative officers, and the attorney.